All right, looks like we're all set to get going here today. Thank you, everybody, for joining the live stream here. I'm MrSoundOff. We will get started in just a second here. Give some people maybe some time to join into the video. Hopefully, you guys are getting the notifications, and if the live videos are going out, I'm trying to get some of these guys scheduled as well. Trying to get more on an actual better time frame for this. Kind of keep it more consistent as well with doing the videos. So far, I've been doing basically every Tuesday and Thursday. I think that schedule is going to continue going with the live streams going forward here, and we'll see here after that. I believe I'm also going to, what I'm going to try to do is also add in some more videos that are not the live streams themselves, but some more videos sprinkled in throughout the week, on the other off days, essentially when I'm not doing the live streams themselves. Get some other videos, some other content out there too, just so that way I can kind of quickly get the stuff out, maybe where there's smaller videos, not really so much waiting for people to join into the chats. But get some other things that are coming across the feed sometimes that are quick. Maybe I don't want to wait till the next day to do a live stream, or maybe the content that don't require a full live video. Maybe there's something that I can do that takes 2 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that there, and get those kind of things over and out. So anyways, look for those, and those, again, hopefully, if you guys are already subscribed to the channel, hopefully you are already. If you guys are liking, subscribing to the channel, hopefully you also have hit the notification bell, so that way you do get notified when new content is coming out. So today, we're going to go ahead and get started here. We have some interesting things to talk about in the world of baseball. Right. Also, NCAA, of course, started up here today. So, of course, that's a big deal. I would say the Shohei Ohtani news in MLB is really kind of still in the process of breaking out. That's probably the biggest thing, considering he's, possibly the biggest athlete in the world, if at least in Major League Baseball right now, and some big news going out there with him. And then we'll also have the song of the day, today in history, those things there as well. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with the Shohei Ohtani news. If you're not a huge baseball fan or have not heard of Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure if you're a baseball fan, you absolutely do know who he is. And of course, he came over to Major League Baseball from Japan. So that's why I say in the world, he has an even larger fan base in other countries, right? Especially Japan, obviously. But in Asia, he's even bigger than he is here. So he was already a huge athlete over there before he even came over here. I've enjoyed watching him myself. It's crazy that I'm an Oakland A's fan, and two of my favorite players that I've gotten to watch, two of my favorite players that I like watching over countless years now. Mike Trout goes back where he's maybe one of my favorite players to watch in the last 20, 30 years. But Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani were both on the Anaheim Angels. Right, and amazingly so, they had these two amazing players and could still never make the playoffs. Right, so it was kind of hard because it was kind of like rooting for a player on the on one of the teams that I'm supposed to despise, or one of my enemy teams out there. But at least the Angels were never really knocking the A's out of the playoffs or anything like that, so I didn't have to worry about them being such a big rival. It was kind of like the Green Bay Packers with the Detroit Lions. For years and years, I was able to also enjoy watching the Lions and rooted for them to have success because they were never knocking my Packers out of anything. Now the Lions are finally doing good. They actually did knock us out of the playoffs 2 years ago on Aaron Rodgers last season. Last year, we still got in, and the Lions were there and everything like that there. Would have been amazing to see Packers versus Lions in the NFC Championship game, right, to see who would have gone on to the Super Bowl from there. But my point is I was still able to enjoy Shohei and Mike Trout a lot, being on the Angels teams, even though they were not on my favorite team, and their team was in my favorite team's division. So Shohei Ohtani now this offseason goes and signs a new deal. He does leave the Angels, unlike Mike Trout. Mike Trout's still stuck there, still trying to stick it out, still trying to just get to the playoffs again. I think he has one playoff trip, I believe, in his career with the Anaheim Angels, in his career in Major League Baseball. So Shohei Ohtani signs this new $700 million deal to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he stays in Southern California, all of a sudden goes to the National League, goes to the Dodgers, who are competing for championships, competing for the World Series every single year. I mean, they've had this stretch here in the 2010s, 2020s that's amazing as far as them winning or I guess at least going to the playoffs, right? And then winning the NFC West, or winning the National League West, or going to the World Series itself. They've been incredible for quite a while now. So he goes to this loaded team in the Los Angeles Dodgers, signs this huge deal. And then what he even does, if you guys haven't heard about this, is he basically forfeited the money for like years and years out. If I remember right, I forgot to look this up here today, but if I remember right, he's making like $1 million a year for the next like 9 or 10 years. And then he'll start making the rest of that $700 million. Essentially, he could possibly be retired in the end of those 7 years. I think he'd still possibly get, I think he'd still be young enough if he doesn't have injuries or something like that. He would probably get another contract, still be able to play anywhere from another, like, I'll say 3 to 7 years. Some of these players now are playing in the 40s and that kind of thing there. So he could possibly play another 3 to 7 years after that. But anyways, 7 years is after the 10 years is up, I should say. Right. So he's really kind of living off of his hundreds of millions of dollars he already made in endorsements and from playing in Japan and from the Anaheim Angels for now. And then he'll be making that money later. So what he did is he gave the Dodgers flexibility essentially to go out and spend that money, not on him right now, because they don't have to worry about paying him money for another 10 years out. They can go and spend that money on other free agents to bring those guys in and to retain players that are on their team right now and keep making the Dodgers successful and viable for World Series championships. So pretty amazing thing that Shohei did there for that, right? Now, all of a sudden, the news today comes out that, I guess it actually broke yesterday, right? That Shohei Ohtani is now being investigated for possibly betting on the game of baseball. And huge news. I mean, if anybody knows the game of baseball and how baseball looks at betting in this sport and, kind of betting in general, I mean, it's supposed to be really about this sport itself. It goes back. There's a long history of baseball betting. This is why I always say to fans out there, Pete Rose, and I like Pete Rose as well, but for fans of Pete Rose that say that he should be in the Hall of Fame, I always just say, okay, then put Shoeless Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame, right? If you're going to just kind of overlook it and say, all right, this guy did this thing, we acknowledge that he did it, he was caught that he did it, but we're going to just kind of forget about it and just let him into the Hall of Fame, well, then you should go ahead and go back and let Shoeless Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame. And Shoeless is not here to, enjoy being inducted at this point. So, like, it would still be rewarding Pete Rose for basically what he did to allow him in. Right. And shows, family might be able to enjoy that kind of thing there and take some comfort in being recognized, their family member for what he did. It's still, I just bring that up because baseball has held on to that. And so it wasn't 20 years later, 50 years later. I mean, what are we, 100 years? 100 years after the fact that baseball kicked the Chicago Black Sox and Shoeless Joe out, and and a lot of the stories go that actually Shoeless Joe really only took the money because the mob was threatening him and his family. And then he still went out there and hit, I think, like 340, 350, something like that there in the World Series, in that World Series. And he only ended up making like a couple errors, essentially when games were like out of reach, to make it look like he was trying to throw the game. So really the whole story is that Shohei Jackson took money, and the Black Sox took money to throw the World Series, and they were the best team in baseball. They had all the star players. They spent the most money on their team, which wasn't a whole lot back in those days, but still, they should have, maybe not easily, but they were definitely favored to win the World Series, and instead their whole team basically stunk in the World Series, and they lost. And then it came out of an investigation that, yes, there was all these players, 8 players that took money, which is the famous movie 8 Men Out, of all these players that did take money to throw the World Series. And Shohei Jackson was one of them, who essentially was their best player and still put together a great World Series. And, again, with all the rumors are that he really didn't do anything to throw the World Series, didn't matter. MLB still said, you took money from this for gambling purposes. You're out. You're no longer allowed back in baseball. Has never been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Has never been brought back for anything Major League Baseball wise ever since. So all of a sudden, then you go 70, 80 years after that, you get to Pete Rose, and those, everything happens with Pete Rose as well. And now here we are again with maybe. This could turn into the biggest story of betting in baseball since Pete Rose. And if this happens, this would be bigger than Pete Rose. Pete Rose was done playing. Pete Rose was a manager for the Reds when he was doing his betting, and his whole playing career was done with. He was basically just kind of waiting that he became a player coach, and then really just a coach. And just the manager of the Reds, and was just basically waiting to get inducted into the Hall of Fame when he got found out for what he was doing, right? As a coach for the Reds. And so his whole career is done. You can't take away his stats. Everyone can look back and still say the all-time hit leader in Major League Baseball history is Pete Rose, because he got to play his entire career. Right. Every fan of Pete Rose got to watch him play his entire career. And then you can second guess how he was as a manager or the whole betting thing, but you at least got to enjoy watching him play. Right. You got to watch him play every day. You got to enjoy watching him win World Series, the bigger the machine, everything like that there. So that was huge. Now, this here now is Shohei Ohtani in his prime. If this comes out the way it might, he might get kicked out of baseball, maybe not tomorrow, but whenever this investigation ends. It might be during this season. Again, who knows how long the investigation will take exactly, what will come out from the investigation. I'm hoping for the best that he has nothing to do with this. But this would be gigantic, because all of a sudden in the middle of his prime, the largest baseball player fan-wise in the world could just be done. And he just signed this offseason this $700 million deal to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so if you haven't heard more about the story, what eventually what started this out was a couple days ago, there was a reporter basically that started asking questions about some money that had gone from an Ohtani account into a company, I guess, that does bets, that does betting for people, and obviously large bets. And then it came out that I guess there was a press conference, there was an interview going on between Shohei Ohtani's interpreter and a reporter, and they were asking him about this, and essentially he said that he had no knowledge of the fact that he didn't do anything like that. And then, what was it? Within 24 hours, all of a sudden, then Shohei Ohtani's camp ends up saying no, that's not right. We don't think that what he was saying is accurate. And then the Dodgers, this is also interesting. The Dodgers, I believe, instead of Shohei Ohtani's camp, the Dodgers fired his interpreter. Now, I guess that maybe is something where maybe the Angels were technically in charge of paying the interpreter while he was on the Angels, and maybe the Dodgers are technically in charge of paying the interpreter while he was on the Dodgers. But he's had the same interpreter the entire time, right? While he's been in Major League Baseball, at least, and that's Ippei Mizuhara, right? So Ippei Mizuhara has been Shohei Ohtani's interpreter the entire time. So I guess what they're saying there is maybe it's not Shohei specifically that ends up paying for his interpreter, but it's the team that he's playing for that ends up paying the interpreter. And so the Los Angeles Dodgers fired him, and then it came out that that Shohei Ohtani's camp is basically saying they want more clarification on this, because they're saying that they're stating that Ippei Mizuhara stole those funds from Shohei Ohtani, and his interpreter stole those funds and did those wire transactions to this betting agency without Shohei knowing. Okay. All right. Game on, I guess. So you have the interpreter saying that he did not do this. You have Shohei's team saying he did do this, and he's been fired. Right. Now, if the interpreter is paid and paid by the Los Angeles Dodgers, essentially he's an employee of the Los Angeles Dodgers, he cannot do any betting as well. So whether it was with Shohei's money or his own, he was going to get fired. Major League Baseball and any team in baseball is going to get that stuff as far away from them as possible. So, there's no doubt about that, which is kind of sad, because there's videos of the two of them, Shohei and Ippei, basically having a laugh, enjoying, a chat with each other in the last inning of the last game that Shohei played on right before all of this stuff broke out. So it was like the night before. They're still friends, and friends and colleagues, I guess, that for years now, right? So this comes out here, and now it's looking like, well, these wire transfers though came out of Shohei's account. So that's the whole part of the investigation here, is how much did Shohei actually know about what was going on? Did he know anything that was going on? Is it accurate that that it was just the interpreter stealing money from Shohei Ohtani, and instead of stealing money for anything out there, he took that money to then bet with, right? And then on top of that, what's just crazy about that is then you turn around and you bet on baseball, right? Because there's some outlets out there saying that Ohtani's group is saying that Ippei had this gambling addiction and he was using money to pay off this gambling addiction, or maybe he was trying to win back money from these other bets to pay off gambling addictions from before. Either way, the guy was doing the one cardinal sin that you can't do in baseball. I mean, there's this, and then there's taking steroids. Essentially, there's your cheating. There's your two ways, and steroids are going to get you 3 strikes and you're out. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, taking steroids as an interpreter isn't going to really, get you in trouble. But it would have your athlete that you're working with in some hot water. If this guy's taking this stuff, or if he's around steroids or something like that, that'd be horrible, because he works with this pro athlete. So everyone would then start to look at that athlete and think that they're doing it too. But he did the biggest thing you can do. If he was betting, if they can clearly show, I don't know exactly how MLB stance is on this. If you guys know, please throw it out there in the comments. But I'm not sure exactly how MLB, and for that matter, NFL, NBA, how their stance is on athletes betting on other sports. right? You always hear about these athletes getting in trouble for betting on their own sport. So I don't know if that's written in there at all. Like you can't bet on sports, period. Where does that end? I mean, you can't bet on on a tennis match, on a golf match, on in anything out there. You can't bet on a special event. All of a sudden, there's a boxing match or the Olympics or something like that's going on that could have nothing to do with your sport. You could have no affiliation. You might not know any of these players themselves at all. You maybe never even been in this venue. All kinds of different things out there. But if he goes out there and bets on baseball, I mean that's it. And what was interesting is for Shohei Joe Jackson was again taking money essentially. What the problem was him and the rest of that team was taking money on throwing the World Series they were playing in, right? So it wasn't so much that they were going out there and betting on other games or anything. They were taking money from bettors, from the mob, right, that were wanting them to throw this game for betting purposes. Okay, but they were affecting the game themselves. Pete Rose, he was betting on games as well, baseball games, but he was also betting on games, and one of his things is he was betting on games for the Reds, his own team, to win or to lose, right? And so they also said that with Pete Rose, it was a sign of like a tip-off, essentially, when he would be betting for his team to win on a lot of dates, right? The gamblers out there would know Pete Rose is betting on his Reds to win this game. So we should bet with Pete Rose. He's really going to try to win this game. Not that it means that you're always going to win that game with you trying as hard as you can, even if you have money on the line. But what was also interesting to note is that the gamers would know when Pete Rose was not betting on his team to win a game, which then came the speculation of Pete Rose was essentially throwing games as the Reds manager, not trying to win as much as he could have, right, because he didn't have money on the line, right? So then those bettors would say, okay, he did not bet for his team today. We're going to go ahead and bet for the other team, right? So all those games, all those circumstances were essentially these coaches, these players affecting baseball and affecting games that they're actively in. Hasn't come out yet what's going on here with this situation, but does this mean that he was betting on other just games out there? Was Shohei Ohtani or was his interpreter betting on a Yankees Red Sox game that was happening at the same time, on the other side of the country while he was playing a game, and he maybe had some insider knowledge, or he's just that much of an addicted gambler that he just had to bet on something, or was Shohei and or Ipe betting on the Angels, right? Because also, by the way, the Dodgers have already come out with this, and they said, hey, by the way, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, he was doing all this betting while he was with the Angels. So essentially saying he hasn't been betting on spring training games with the Dodgers, I guess, that's all it's been there so far for the Dodgers. So I just thought that was interesting too, because the Dodgers, who are the ones that have said to have fired the interpreter, are also the ones coming out and already distancing themselves from this, right? Like, it looks bad enough that they're like, this happened, but it did not happen while he was with our team. Don't blame us, right? If you, Major League Baseball, are going to come back at the team that he was associated with while this was happening, you're going to be coming back at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, right? So Dodgers are wanting to throw this under the bus. Shohei's definitely willing to throw his interpreter under the bus. As an interpreter, could have taken it, right? For Shohei. I mean, betting is not an illegal act here in the United States, depending upon what country you're in, or sorry, what state you're in, and maybe what you're betting on. But don't you think this interpreter could have said, "Oh, the rig is up. Shohei, they got us. I'll go ahead and take the blame for this. It's been a great ride. I've made millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, who knows, hundreds of millions of dollars working with Shohei for years. You can say, I'll go ahead and take this for you. I'll say that I did the betting. You go ahead and enjoy the rest of your career. Don't ever bet again. And we're done. Or, hey, Shohei, I'll go ahead and take the blame for this. Where's a payday for me? I'll go ahead and be done. I'll stop working for you. You gave me X amount of dollars, and I'll say that I did this all on my own, and we're done, right? Now, all of a sudden, you get into the MLB probably investigating still, right, what exactly happened. And I guess federal authorities are investigating on what happened so far. But again, if it's not an illegal act, what's going to be the worst thing that happens to this interpreter? He gets fired from the team that he's from. Well, that was already happening, right? So the fact that he did not come out and say, "Yeah, this was me," and he said this was not me, looks that much worse for Shohei Ohtani. It does not make this circumstance look good at all, right? We'll see. This has been just within the last 24 to 48 hours what has come out so far, but I can't believe this would even kind of happen in today's world. And you see it a lot of times with NFL players. Some of these guys that make a team for a year, or they're a young guy and they're in their first contract or something like that, and they'll maybe do some little form of betting or something like that. Maybe they're not fully guaranteed much money, but Shohei Ohtani has already made and is going to make so much tremendously much more money with his playing baseball than when he would ever make with gambling, right? So we're going to have to keep our eyes on this one. I know I definitely will. This is, I believe, just getting started. And you know how some of these investigations go. They sometimes can take quite a while. They sometimes can take literally a year or two before they're done. But the interesting thing would also be to say is the Dodgers have been quick to, with Trevor Bauer. They said, "Oh, there's some smoke out there. There's this allegations that are coming out. Boom, you're gone," right? And then it has basically come out years later that most of those allegations against Trevor Bauer were falsified, right? Were false, were fake. And but the Dodgers had already gotten rid of him, gotten rid of his contract and all of that. So could we see the Dodgers cut ties with Shohei Ohtani tomorrow, a month from now, during the season sometime, after the season, before this investigation even concludes, if it's going down that path? It's just an amazing turn of events here from a few months ago and him signing this huge deal to where we are at today. All right. So hopefully you guys, are keeping an eye on that. Hopefully it turns out the best for Shohei Ohtani. If you guys have any further information either now or as you watch the videos later on, please drop some comments there in the field and let us know. Let's talk about it. All right. So that'll be my first topic. There's all baseball, Shohei, and without further ado here, gonna go on to today in history for you guys. And today in history brings us a little bit more lighthearted information than the Shohei news. I thought this was interesting too, considering we just talked about a Japanese-born baseball player, though, that Ichiro Suzuki finished his baseball career today, and this was in actually, let's see here if I got this. Sorry. Go back to the year that he finished, which is 2014, 2016. Pardon me while I look this up real quick. But the whole thing was Ichiro Suzuki finished his career in baseball when he came back to the Seattle Mariners, and they were actually playing a series, a beginning of the season series versus the Oakland Athletics back in Tokyo, Japan. So he basically came back for just re-signed with the Seattle Mariners so he could retire as a Seattle Mariner, even though he went to like the Yankees and stuff like that after leaving the Mariners for a short period of time towards the end of his career there. But he re-signed with the Mariners to finish his career as a Mariner, and he finished career today, and this was in almost there. It was 2019, actually. Yeah, 2019. 2019 is when he actually retired and finished his baseball career. And he finished his career, by the way, with 4,367 base hits, right? Actually surpassing Pete Rose. So this all kind of comes full circle. We got the Japanese player. We got talking about Pete Rose before. But in his professional baseball career, Ichiro Suzuki actually had more hits than Pete Rose with the 4,367, and 3,089 of those being in Major League Baseball. So he had quite a bit of hits, 67, and 3,089 of those being in Major League Baseball. So he had quite a bit of hits already, over 1,000 hits while he was in Japan before he ever came over to the major leagues. But I thought that was interesting that I remember that short series when I think they played 3 games. Major League Baseball has been doing this for quite some years now, where a team will play. I don't think they've ever done like 2 series. Normally it's just 1 series, right? Where they'll play like 3 or 4 games over there in Japan. They'll travel over there. They'll play some of their last spring training games. So been seeing the Dodgers versus the Padres and Dodgers versus some of like the Japanese teams playing some games over there for a short period of time, getting ready for the Major League Baseball season to start. And then they'll have a short little series of like a 3 or 4 game series before they'll end up coming over here. So essentially they kind of kick off the Major League Baseball season a few days sooner than the rest of Major League Baseball does, while the rest of baseball is here in like spring training, and then they'll travel to their normal stadiums for the start of their season. So these teams will start out a few days before that, play their series in Japan, and come over. And so the Mariners beat the A's 5-4 in this game. That was Ichiro's last game in 2019. Besides that, also on today, we had John Wooden's UCLA Bruins winning their 4th straight NCAA title, right? So March Madness is a big thing out there, of course, for a lot of fans out there, especially basketball fans. And John Wooden's team's huge inspiration for not just a lot of basketball people out there, but a lot of coaches out there. I know I had a mentor in baseball coaching that, basically his mentor, his idol that he looked up to for coaching was John Wooden. And today's date, in 1970, John Wooden's UCLA Bruins won their 4th straight NCAA tournament. Pretty cool for them. Pretty special stuff. And what a glorious time for UCLA's basketball team there. And that, guys, concludes Today in History for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy the information that I have for you today on Today in History. If you guys ever have any other things that maybe I don't bring up in those, again, leave a comment or send me a message and then let me know. Or if you have anything that you want me to bring up in the next episode. Like I said, I normally am doing Tuesdays and Thursdays so far for these live streams. But I'll also maybe come out with some other content in the meantime. And so if there's if there's something that you want me to bring up in Today in History for sports or for music, and it happens to fall on a Monday or a Wednesday, Friday, any other day that I'm not doing the live streams, please reach out and let me know. And then we go into our song of the day for you guys. Song of the day today, going back to me, just kind of my Irish appreciation here, my Irish appreciation week for St. Paddy's Day. Throwing out another one of my favorite Irish bands out there for you guys. Another good song. They have so many good songs, just like Flogging Molly does. And a band that I have seen live a number of times. And if you guys haven't seen them, you definitely need to check them out. But that'd be Dropkick Murphys. And I know Dropkick Murphys has a rather large following, just like Flogging Molly does. I'd say Dropkick also has some more of the songs that might be more recognized out there. Like they have some of the songs that are more like in some of the in the movies, like The Departed and stuff like that out there. But I went with a song that isn't maybe one of their most well-known songs, but I chose because it's not one of those songs, right? But it's another great song that if you're a fan of Shipping Up to Boston, this almost seems like a sequel to that song, right? And that's the Prisoner song from Dropkick Murphys, and that's off the album from Signed and Sealed in Blood. And fantastic album again. This one here came out was it 2011? Was it for that guy? 2013 for that one. So they had already been around for quite a while, and I just love it when you can have a band that has been putting out albums one after another. They've been out for 10, 15, 20 years. And they're still cranking out great albums. I mean, this all of a sudden, they have an album where it's like their 4th through 7th album or something like that. They're still putting out great albums, great music. And thankfully, that's been Dropkick Murphys. And I think, let's see, timeline-wise, I believe I saw them twice before they came out with this album here itself. Seeing them at the Catalyst down there in Santa Cruz. I see a lot of shows down there. That was fantastic seeing them in a smaller venue, but also seeing them at a full-on music festival with thousands of people was crazy too. All of a sudden, there you got the waves going and stuff like that, which was also awesome to see. Where you're there and you're looking out across this field and you're like, oh man, I didn't know like this many people were even into them or knew this song or something like that. And all of a sudden it just gets you that much more amped to hear that song. So if you haven't seen them, go check them out. And if you haven't heard that song, Prisoner song from Dropkick Murphys, go check that out as well. Give it a spin. Hopefully you guys enjoy that song there from Dropkick Murphys. And that today is the song of the day from MrSoundOff. And a quick little note here to kind of finish up the show. NCAA tournament did start today. We had some big upsets out there. I don't know if this is, I mean, I guess it is an upset. I would have picked this. I did pick this actually myself, but it's really kind of just as a homer a pick. It's not really like a great insight I had on this one here. I'm an Oakland A's fan. And I'm a North Carolina fan and stuff like that for NCAA, but Oakland beats Kentucky. So you got the number 14 being the number 3 seed Kentucky today, and then you also have the number 11 Oregon Ducks beating number 6 South Carolina. Would really be your 2 big upsets so far of the day. And I always kind of find it interesting. I feel like those numbers, the 14-3 and the 11-6, I feel like produce a lot of upsets every year, right? Tell me what you guys think. If there's a number combination that really comes to mind more than that there, but over that, then you start going like 14-2. Or 15-2, and no, I think those 2 seeds generally fly by pretty regularly through that first round. 1 seeds almost always. You start getting to after that, you start getting to the 4 seed. The 4 seeds, I feel like they're still like trying to prove themselves. You got some of these like 4 or 5. 6 seeds that are trying to prove themselves, so they're playing hard, like getting into that tournament. They a lot of times I feel like make it through that first round as well. But that 3 seed, that's a good one to look at every year as far as looking for an upset. And although I did say 6 seeds do play hard, they're trying to get in there. I do feel like the number 11 Oregon Ducks were underrated I feel like they had a pretty good squad heading into this tournament there too. So I don't think they're necessarily as deep or have the highest ceiling talent like maybe some other teams do to carry on deep into the tournament, but not really surprised as far as Oregon over South Carolina and that. And we still got some more games going on here tonight. I also feel like a lot of times West Coast teams, there's that West Coast bias. All the media is generally on the East Coast. Maybe you got some LA stuff, but LA, they're concerned about their Bruins, maybe whatever USC happens to be doing that year or something like that. But they're normally pretty high on all the East Coast teams there. So the West Coast teams don't get so much of the love. But, speaking of those West Coast teams maybe having some trouble here, the Washington State, right, might not be holding so strong with what Oakland and Oregon has done so far here today. So far, Washington State is losing to the number 10 seed Drake, right? And let's see. Besides that, Kansas should take care of Samford pretty easily there. That's a 14-3. And Texas Tech looks like they are, unless a comeback comes down the road here from Texas Tech. Looks like Texas Tech is going to lose that game, and that's another 11-6. So where I was saying the 11-6, a lot of turnover there, a lot of upsets in that 11-6 spot. Watch for another one right there tonight happening as North Carolina State is currently up over Texas Tech about halfway through second half there. So watch for that there. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the NCAA madness so far. If you haven't been to a game for that as well, it's a ton of fun. I remember getting to see Marcus Smart play for the NCAA tournament years ago for Oklahoma, and a ton of fun. The atmosphere, the crowds are great. A fun thing to watch there for you guys. And if not, it's just a fun thing to kind of partake in the tournaments, the brackets, all those kind of things there that make the March Madness fun. All right, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that, and I'll leave you guys. The last thing is drop some lines out there as far as the NFL free agency goes. Where you guys see some of these top players that are left out there going. I know there's still quite a bit of guys remaining out there. A lot of really good players out there too. There's the Stephon Gilmore's out there. There's even some quarterbacks still left, like Ryan Tannehill is still an option out there. Probably going to end up being a backup somewhere. But could he end up going to a team? And do you think he could end up starting? Do you think he could have some impact on the NFL draft by going to a team? It was only. I feel like he gets super undervalued as well. It was only, what was it, maybe 3 years ago? I think it was 3 years ago. He was what? I know it's fantasy football, but I think he was the number one scoring quarterback in fantasy football that season, which, generally means like doesn't really necessarily so much mean wins and losses and those kind of things there, but it does mean that he was putting up stats, right? And he was not putting up negative stats as well. That would get those numbers to drop. So he was getting a lot of touchdowns, not throwing a lot of interceptions, got a decent amount of yards. It just shows. I mean, you don't put up those kind of numbers if you're generally a backup caliber quarterback, right? And so he had that on a team that then got rid of their number one receiver, let him go to Philadelphia, right? And AJ Brown. And a team that relied heavily on the run. He still was able to do that. So, I'm kind of interested to see where he can go. And if he goes somewhere as just a backup, someone got themselves a really good backup. And then they're probably not going to have to pay a whole lot of money for him as well. Then you have still like Jadeveon Clowney's out there. Julian Blackmon, Justin Simmons, I know is another guy that I was kind of, He's one of those safeties where I went into this offseason thinking like my Green Bay Packers basically were kind of light on safeties last year and then let two of their safeties go. right? So I was like, well, we obviously have to go and sign some safeties or pick some up in the draft. We picked up the best safety in Xavier McKinney already, but could Justin Simmons take essentially our weakest point from our defense from last year, and all of a sudden you go Simmons with McKinney in back there at the safety spot and make that like possibly our biggest strength, right? That'd be quite a tandem there with those two together. So there's those options there with him. Odell Beckham Jr. got released as well, so he's now a free agent out there. I know there's been links with possibly with the Jets. I think everyone just says the Jets if you're some veteran player or something like that. But the Jets, I do still think, could use another receiver, so it does make sense for him to go there. And I think you can use Odell Beckham Jr. in the slot a whole lot, and they have Xavier Gibson is essentially their slot receiver right now. So Odell Beckham Jr. would be a huge upgrade over that, I think. And if the money's right, definitely a good spot. But like I said, apparently he went and had a visit with, I believe it was the Dolphins today. So we'll see if he ends up there. Now also imagine that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Odell Beckham Jr. combination on the Dolphins. That's pretty solid as well, right? Let's see here. And Tyler Boyd, within the Bengals, it's kind of like, what are you guys doing? You franchise tag T. Higgins, and then T. Higgins comes out saying he's demanding a trade, right? And then you don't sign Tyler Boyd, don't re-sign Tyler Boyd up, and so essentially you're in my eyes, your number one receiving group in the NFL as far as like top three receivers that you had is done. You being in the top 3 to 5 best wide receiver duos, just 2 receivers, it looks like that's done as well. And you could essentially just have Jamar Chase next year, right? So Tyler Boyd on most teams would be a number 2. There would be some teams like the year Aaron Rodgers last year on the Green Bay Packers when Allen Lazard was their number 1. Tyler Boyd would have easily been the number 1 on the Green Bay Packers that year. Okay, so Tyler Boyd could absolutely be a number 1 for some teams out there, and definitely a number 2 for most teams out there. He happened to just be behind T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the Cincinnati Bengals. So, again, there's stipulations. There's some rumors about him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers out there. And the Pittsburgh Steelers I talked about before with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, have spent essentially all their money on defense, have still some money to spend, and also trade away one of their receivers. So, they need some more help there as well, for sure. So there's definitely a lot more other guys out there without going into the other 50 or 100 top free agents out there here today. If you guys have anyone you want me to bring up, or any clues, any suggestions, any ideas of where these guys might be going to, or anyone you want to talk about being a free agent, where they might be going to, or where their situation has been so far, again, hit me up or leave comments down in the field there below. And that's going to be it for us here tonight, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. This is episode number 5 for MrSoundOff here tonight, guys. And I'll catch you guys with another live stream next Tuesday. All right, in the meantime, you guys have a great night and a fantastic weekend.